Welcome to Imprint, a podcast about creating a home and life you love. I'm Natalie Walton, an interior designer, stylist, and best-selling author focused on an holistic approach to homes. Each week, I'm sharing insights and interviews about the creative process to help you enhance both your interiors and well-being, as well as provide you with the tools and resources to make considered and sustainable choices with all that you create. Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. Welcome to Imprint. I'm very excited to share today's interview with you. It is with a former set designer and Studio McGee stylist, Jen Paul, who has been building a name for herself as a prop and interior stylist. She started her business just under a year ago and loves the process of collaborating with other creatives to make something unique and beautiful, and really values intentionality, which is a key component to her styling and her life. We first met when she joined my course, the Styling Masterclass, when she wanted to upskill. And in today's conversation, she shares how she started out at Studio McGee, how that opportunity came about, and really about a crossroads that she was at prior to that, when she realized that she was at a place in her life where she didn't actually want to be. And Jen realized that she needed to make a decision in regards to the life that she wanted to create for herself. And in today's episode, she shares the steps that she took after she made those decisions and how it doesn't have to necessarily be this big, overwhelming process, but it's about taking one step at a time. But it all begins with making a decision. And I'm really excited to share what happened next. Also, before we just get into the conversation, now, if you have been enjoying this podcast, I just want to take a quick minute to say I would really appreciate if you can quickly tap on the rating button on wherever you're listening to this and rate this podcast, or even just take 2 seconds to say, love this episode, or even name the episode that you loved, just so that I can get feedbacks on the ones that you're really enjoying, what you want to hear more of. So just pop a quick note in the review section because I read them all and I really appreciate hearing from you. Anyway, back to our conversation. Hi, Jen. Welcome to Imprint. I'm very excited to chat with you and learn more about your journey. The last time that we were in contact was when you were doing my course, the Styling Masterclass, and I have really enjoyed watching you flourish in your career and evolve and seeing your work develop. And it's been really, fascinating and beautiful to watch. So for the listeners, can you please share a little bit about your journey to how you got to where you are now? And I'm always interested in some of the threads in your life, which when you look back makes sense in relation to the career and the life that you've created for yourself.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here. This is exciting for me. So thank you. So when I look back on my life and think about kind of how I got here, I remember as young as 8 or 9, just loving to rearrange my room. So like I would even do it every 2 or 3 months, rearrange it again. I just love moving things around, seeing how they would fit, seeing what worked, what didn't work, was something I always enjoyed. And I also always found myself liking to work with my hands, like things that I could physically be touching and moving. And I really enjoyed building things, spatial reasoning type activities I really was drawn to as a kid. And as I look back now, it's easy to kind of see that makes sense for, where I'm at now. But at the time, I don't know, you don't really think of a lot of careers, associated with those kinds of things. So and let's see, as far as how I got to where I am now, it's been kind of a journey. I didn't start actively pursuing like styling and set decorating is another word, a job that a title I have sometimes, until my early 30s. So I'm 38 now. So it kind of was a journey to figure it out, and it took me some time. And I felt like maybe earlier in college years, I was just trying to figure things out and was following maybe what I thought other people were doing or what I thought made sense for the people around me, and kind of just was felt kind of lost, but felt like maybe I wasn't. I don't know, just doing what I thought I should be doing, if that makes sense. And then I had kind of this awakening of late 20s where I was like, wait, like I can make my life whatever I want it to be, and I can do what I want. It doesn't have to look like what other people's lives look like. And there's a lot of options out there. And so I kind of started exploring um, around that time. Like if I could do anything, like what am I really drawn to? If I could do anything, what would I be doing? And I found myself and realized it by myself, realizing I was always drawn to photography, graphic design, interiors, and like I mentioned earlier, moving things around. Um, and so I started figuring out what kind of jobs people were doing with those kinds of skills, and um, found myself um, approaching photographers and prop stylists in my area and reaching out and saying, hey, I want to learn more about this. I have a lot of passion for it. I'll work for free. Just let me come help you. I can carry stuff. Like, I can just be a mover if that's what you need. And that's how it started. Luckily, I met some really great people that way, that ended up being mentors. And I was on sets and seeing how things came together, different people that are there. And you meet a lot of people when you're on sets, even if you're just, at the bottom of the totem pole. You're meeting photographers and producers and art directors and other people just starting out like you, and I'm assisting people. And so if I did a good job, I luckily had all these people I was connecting to. And I worked for free at first, and then people started asking me back and paying me. And I just kind of started learning that way. And I feel grateful for the people I was able to connect with during those times.
I'm just going to ask you because I'm curious, because I think a lot of people have this experience. So when you went to college, what were you studying then? And, in those kind of, I guess, late teens, when you're making that decision about what am I going to do when I leave sort of high school, what kind of career and what about in those early 20s when you were sort of, what types of jobs were you having? And I'm curious because I think that a lot of people, it's hard to know sometimes what you want to do, and you don't always know, like you say, what types of jobs that are out there. So can you just share that with our listeners?
Of course. I always loved working. So I had lots of jobs from, retail shops to, in college, I worked at a laundry mat. I was a waitress. And at school, I loved college, and I actually went into school wanting to do interior design and wanted to kind of try that out. And my college, the first year I was there, had decided to close the interior design program. I took like a semester of a class. And for whatever reason, back then I thought, oh, I guess I can't do interior design now. I need to pick something else. Like I didn't think I could maybe go to a different college and, and still study that. And so I found myself moving around in college. I did graphic design for a little bit. I did advertising, communications, the kind of IT, like I just kind of jumped around. And um, I ended up graduating in elementary education in the end. So, and I still remember graduating and being like, what am I doing? I don't want to be a teacher. You know, it's just a hard time to know what to do. And you feel this pressure to pick something. And it's hard to know, you know, what you're going to want to do with your whole life. So I taught school for 3 years after I graduated. So,
Yeah, that seems like a very different world now, doesn't it?
yeah, totally, totally.
And so I met you, as I said, when you joined my course, the Styling Masterclass. I'm curious how you found out about that and what kind of was the impetus to join. What were you challenged? What was your challenges at that time? And, how did that course help you with that?
Yeah, as I learned more and more about what an interior stylist or prop stylist was, and that that was a real job, and um, I wanted to learn more, and I started looking for people who were doing that, and it ended up being kind of harder than I thought, really, to find stylists. Um, and I found you, and had your book, your first book, and was it so inspired and was excited to find someone who was like, that's what I want to do. She's doing it. There are people that are doing this, like, and making a career out of it. Um, and so I was excited about that. And when I was actually working as a stylist when I took your class. I was working for Studio McGee, an interior design company at that time, and felt a little bit like I needed more experience. You know, like I wanted to learn. I feel like everything I'd learned, I'd kind of taught myself. Like I'd kind of just been on the job, learn like trying to figure it out in some ways. And I was desperate for like some formal mentorship, you know, or someone saying, this is how I've done it. This is what works. This is the tricks of the trade, you know. And it was so nice to find that information and to find your class because it just helped me connect so many dots, and it made my journey a lot easier after that point because things just made more sense. You know, I kind of had like a roadmap.
Right.
So I appreciated all that, all the insight you gave during that class.
And what about sort of doing the exercises? I remember your work being really beautiful. What about sort of doing the kind of the exercises within the course? Because I always sort of say, I think so many people have an interest and a passion for interiors, but it's sort of they're almost like a bystander. They're looking at what other people are doing, but they're not necessarily creating their own work. Or even, I've had people who, such as yourself, who are working in the industry, but they may be doing a brief for somebody else, but it's an opportunity to explore what you really love and what style you have. How did you find kind of doing those, the practical side of the course as well?
Yeah, I found that kind of challenging at first. So I was used to someone saying, this is the feel we're going for. You know, here's what we're like a plan, a brief of what we're doing. And so for someone to just say, make something that you know, that you're drawn to, that you love, I was like, whoa. And it was really hard. It was harder than kind of having this, you know, these parameters to work in. But I found I loved working through that in the course and exploring that and having just a more open ended assignment. And I learned that through that class it just takes a lot of practice too, right? You're like lots and lots of trying things to figure it out. And so it was fun. It was a really nice exploration.
Great. And so, what about your own personal style? So, as you said, you've always had this love of interiors and sort of rearranging your spaces. How has your own personal style evolved over the years? And I'm curious about, obviously, you worked with Studio McGee for, maybe you can share a little bit of a light on how long you worked there.
Yeah.
And, did that inform your style, or was that kind of already your style? Can you just share about how that has changed? And I'm curious to learn more about that.
Yeah. Let's see, to start my style, I think I like to describe it as classic and cool. And I don't, what I mean by that is like, I like things to be, I like classic silhouettes and clean lines, and that kind of color palette, but I also like a little bit of edge to it, a little bit of something unique, a little bit something more modern, or maybe a more modern texture, or, whatever it might be to kind of throw in there to add something a little different. Um, as far as like the design words that we like to use to describe design, I think I lean kind of transitional, a little modern, and a little bit minimal are probably the words I would use. But I also find words to describe design is just not sufficient. Like I feel like I always need pictures to really show, what I mean. Because I think words can mean so many different things to people. So when I'm working with clients, I feel like I'm always more drawn to here's some pictures of what I'm thinking, because words can be hard. But hopefully that kind of makes sense as far as the style I lean toward. Um, let's see, second part. I think you mentioned the
Well,
Studio
yeah,
McGee
yeah. I
journey.
mean, I'm curious, I guess, obviously, first of all, so many people, if they are interested in working as an interior stylist, it's how to get that kind of that first break, how to actually go and get work as an interior stylist. And, you've mentioned that you would just kind of go and assist and work in that way. Maybe you can just maybe share a little bit more about your actual career journey from that point of, going and assisting people to then actually getting paid for your work, and whether that was, I don't know if that was Studio McGee at the start, or if that you had to work for a few clients first and then now to where you are now, where you've sort of made that decision to transition to working with other clients. So maybe you can just shine a little
Yeah.
bit more of a light on that part of your journey.
Yeah, definitely. So when I started and I was assisting others, after about maybe a year or so of doing a lot of assisting, I started getting more opportunities to kind of be the lead, in the styling. I also did some like set design, and set decorating for commercials too at that time. And um, I was always looking for opportunities, right, to like do something. So I reached out to Studio McGee. Let's see, I was following them. So their office was 10 minutes from my house. So at the time, so, back in, let's say that was like 2018 or so is when I started connecting with them, and they were still kind of small, but definitely had a buzz and growing. And, I knew I wanted to be a part of it somehow, but I didn't really know what that looked like for me because I thought I'm not trained in interior design. So how can I be involved here? Like, what do they need? And I'm like, they've got to need a stylist, right? So I to Instagram found people that, worked there and found someone who had a stylist was their job title. And I reached out to her on Instagram and asked if I just assumed they were hiring stylists freelance because that's kind of the experience I had is that people just kind of hired that out. And so I said, if you ever need help with styling, like I would love to, be on set with you guys. And she responded and was like, great to know. We actually hire I'm a stylist full time here, and we actually we don't hire freelance. Would you be interested in like a job? Like, would you want to apply for like a full time job with us? And I was like, yeah, like, but maybe let's try. And I was kind of nervous at first, but I'm like, oh wait, that could be really cool. Um, and she also happened to be a friend of a friend. We made some connections that way, and had an interview, and was so excited to get the job. It actually was kind of a process that I interviewed and then it didn't end up getting the job until about 5 or 6 months later. So I kind of thought maybe I didn't get the job. It was kind of this mix of emotions, hoping I had it and then maybe thought I didn't. And then just the way it worked out, they ended up not needing me until a little later. But that was a big deal for me getting that job because it felt, I don't know, it kind of solidified this career I was creating and wanted. And I had this kind of steady income, which can be nice sometimes when you're freelancing. And I was excited to be a part of something that was growing. And it felt like they were part of something new and had big ideas, and it was cool to be a part of
Can
that team. So, and at the beginning, it was just me and two other people on the styling team when I started, and it was really fun to help that team grow. And I learned a lot and was able to bring a lot of the stuff I had learned by doing set design, like all little tricks, like using fishing line to hold things in place, or just stuff like that that I could bring to the table that I had learned on sets. We started building out kind of some studio spaces, and I could fall back on some of those set design things I'd learned too. And it was just cool to see that grow, and to be a part of that was really cool.
Can you just share a little bit of an insight into, working for then, obviously I'm sure it grew to a quite a sizable company while you were there, and a little bit of an insight into like your day to day while working for a company such as that, and how you would approach shoots. Like, were you styling every day? Was it sourcing? Was it, a mix? And yeah, a little bit about the brief and the philosophy of how you would approach those shoots. I think it would be really interesting for people to hear.
Yeah. At the beginning, my job changed a lot from where I started to where I ended. And it was just based on the needs of the company. And we were growing so rapidly. And sometimes I would come to work and be like, hey, we got to do a shoot today. We got to get a shot of this new sofa, like let's figure it out. And we would kind of just have to pull things together. And that was really fun. Actually, it might sound kind of crazy, but it was kind of fun. And we were trying to figure out, trying to find a good studio space. At first, we didn't have a full-time photographer. So we were hiring different photographers and trying to find the right fit for the look we wanted. Um, and it seemed a little crazy, but fun, if that makes sense at first. And then slowly, we started getting more processes in place and had a studio space and started planning out photo shoots more than a day in advance. We're like, okay, we started planning them out, a month or two, or even, 5 months ahead as things went on. And we were doing on location shoots as well as in studios. Sometimes we were usually shooting in homes that the company had designed, but sometimes we would even look for other locations if we just needed more content. Studio McGee, knew the power of photos early on, and put a lot of time and effort into creating beautiful photos. And so it was nice to be appreciated and valued in that way, because they knew how important that was. And so they put a lot of time and support into growing our team. So it was nice.
And were you given guidance in terms of like, okay, so say for instance the sofa,
Yeah.
Okay, you were given a brief in terms of the way to shoot it in a particular space and which props to bring in, or were you given, was that your team and the choice that, the styling team to come up with that, or a bit of both? I'm just curious as to how that logistical side of it worked.
Yeah. So I had she's the creative director now. I think at the time she was just our lead stylist of our team. She's who hired me. And she was awesome. Like she was always right in line with Shay and her vision of how we wanted things to look. So she usually would give us a starting point for, what the products we needed to use in the shoot and the feel. And then let us go from there. And we had a warehouse with props that just grew and grew. It was so fun to have just go into a space with shelves of props to use. And then the company, McGee and Co. have lots of products they sell. So we have like a prop section and then a section of all of the products that we sold. And we had a lot of creative freedom as far as what we wanted to make it look like. And we just were told, try to use these products. Like we need to highlight, these things. And so, yeah, does that kind of
Yeah, yeah,
answer
no,
that?
no,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And so then I guess how long were you there for? And then at what point did you decide it was time to kind of go out and do your own thing? And how has that transition worked for you?
Yeah. So I was there almost 3 years, learned a lot, learned so much there, and enjoyed my time there, and still have good friends that I made while I was there. Um, I stopped working there about a year ago, and it was, it was mid, 2021, mid year. And I was feeling that kind of COVID burnout that I think a lot of us were feeling. And just wanted to kind of align my priorities and with my values, and wanted to think about the kind of, the time, how I wanted to spend my time. And I was feeling like I just spent a lot of time in work and just needed a change. A lot of it was just was influenced by my family. I have 3 kids, and they were just having a hard time with the way things were going in school. And I just felt a pull to kind of shift my priorities a little bit. And so it was sad to leave. Um, but I was excited about to have the opportunity to kind of create the life I wanted, with my time, and just be more intentional about my days and what I valued. And so that's kind of how that happened. And I took some time, took a few months and didn't really work at all, and just kind of tried to realign my life a little. And then said, okay, I'm going to just do this on my own, go back to freelance work, but focus on interiors. And I think I can do this, even though I'm not in LA or New York. I'm going to try and make this work, in Salt Lake City, which is where I am. And so that's what I've been doing for the past year, is just trying to um, have my own styling business and be intentional about the kind of clients I take and the time I spend on that work, and just make sure it's something I really want to be doing. And it's been great. I've really enjoyed it.
I think it's something that people again like they can struggle with that going out and getting clients and charging for their services and knowing who to work with. So do you only work with then local interior designers at the moment? And I mean, I guess I'm presuming that you would just approach and kind of almost pitch your services to them.
So I work mainly with local interior designers. I would say that's probably maybe 50% of my clientele. And we're doing like portfolio type photo shoots. And I love doing that. And I've also been fortunate to do a little bit of traveling and work with like some architecture firms that aren't still on the west coast of the U.S. Not too much traveling, but it's been fun to have a little more opportunity that way too. And then I'll do some like commercial type shoots for businesses too that are selling home goods or furniture, um, and help style those kind of things as well. Just kind of where I'm at with my clients. So
And how do you work out what to charge people? Because that is one of the hardest things I think
so
most
hard.
people struggle with. Do you ask people what their budget is, or do you say, this is my price? Can you sort of shine a little bit of a light on that if
Yeah,
possible?
yeah. I know you're aware of this, but if you have an editorial shoot, they'll usually come to you and say, here's the day rate, here's the budget, and you're just saying yes or no, which is so much easier than making the proposal for someone that says, well, I don't know, how much do you think this is going to cost, and it's been definitely been a learning process. So in those instances where I'm kind of creating a proposal, I'll meet with the client, usually on the phone or Zoom. Sometimes I'll go to the location with them and walk through the space. And I just kind of get an idea of how much time it's going to take me, the money I'm going to need. And that's just taken experience to figure that out. Honestly, at first, I kind of had an idea of what I wanted to charge, and after every shoot, I'd say, okay, I need to change this and this and this. And I need to add this. I need to add this to my contract. I need to charge more for props. I need to order flowers, just little things that I would like learn after every shoot. So honestly, even now, I feel like I'm still kind of adjusting after each project a little bit because it just takes time to figure it all out. And I wish there was more of like a handbook, like this is what you should charge and this is how much props are going to cost. And, but it's just, there's so many variables that it can be hard. Yeah, I don't know. It would be helpful to have more details. Like I usually charge hourly for my interior design clients. So I'll do an hourly estimation in my proposal. I'll do a prop rental fee. So I charge a prop rental fee, and then I charge for like perishables, so greens and flowers and fruit or stuff like that. And so I'll give them an estimation at the beginning, how many hours I think it'll take, prep, post, and shoot day. And we go from there. And then if they agree to it, my deposit is usually all of the upfront costs. So like the prop rentals and the perishables I charge initially, and then I'll invoice for the rest after.
Yeah.
So
do you have a prop library that you have kind of created to sort of draw upon?
Yeah, I do. And it's getting too big. Like it's getting way too big. My husband's like, you need another space. You're outgrowing this. It's just hard. I don't know if you're like that too, but I just love gathering cool stuff. And I think I'm going to need this, or after every shoot, I'll have some things I'll hold on to. But at the same time, I try to kind of not keep too many things because you don't want to use the same stuff in other shoots, right? And so I keep the things like soaps and napkins and stuff that, it's okay to maybe use again, but I'm careful with, bigger, more focal point items to not hold on to those, usually kind of give them their special moment, at a shoot and then move on. So
yeah, no, completely. I mean, definitely when I was doing more of that type of work, I had more things, but I tend to draw, I tend to draw upon what I've got in my own home, so it's like,
yep.
I pull bits and pieces out, or, obviously I'm fortunate that I've got my own shop, Imprint House, so I can just
Yep.
raid the supplies.
I'm doing that too. My kids know when I have a shoot. They're like, Mom, where are the books that are usually in the shelf? And where's that vase that we had? And I'm like, they're like, oh, Mom must have had a shoot today
Yeah,
because half the
completely.
house is gone.
Yep, I know all of that. So, and can you maybe just shine a little bit of a light on like how much are you often propping for an interior design shoot? When it's that type of client, how much? I know obviously there'll be varying degrees, but on average.
Yeah, I'm doing about 2 or 3 shoots a month. And I'm actually kind of purposely not taking on any more than that. That feels like kind of a good place for me. And I also will do some consulting, and I I also have a couple clients, like interior design homeowner clients, that I also will do kind of in between shoots, just help people kind of finish up their houses and style their own homes as well.
And do you charge a different kind of rate for those sort of jobs, or is it all kind of worked on a similar rate, hourly rate?
Consulting, I'll do a little higher rate per hour, usually just 1 hour, and I'll do a higher rate than my normal. And for a homeowner, it's a similar hourly rate to my photo shoots.
Yeah. And what about your process? Can you just sort of shine a little bit of light on your process? So you go to a house, what are you looking for? What are you trying to add, to take it to that next level? What are some of the things that you find work really well? Can you shine a little bit of light on your process?
Yep. I love to be in the space before shoot day if possible. I have a hard time just using pictures, that people send. Sometimes that's just the way it is and you have to work with that. But if I can get into a space with a client, that's my preferred method and way to start because it just, with pictures, sometimes you're like, oh, that sinks over there. I thought it, like, you don't always can like put everything together as easily. I like to walk through this space. I like to be with the interior designer as I walk through, if that's who I'm working with, and get an idea of their vision. I think it's important that I'm there to support, what they've created and enhance it, not to take it over or make it my own thing. And so I want to be really in touch with their vision and, the just what they wanted for the space. And I just want to be a resource to enhance what they've already created. So I love talking with them through the space. And we talk about mood and feeling that they want to create through the photos. I often go back to something I learned in your class about it being a visual storytelling styling. And I love that. That's my favorite way actually to approach a shoot, is to figure out the story that we're trying to share. Because once you're clear on that, everything else falls into place so much easier. If you know the feel and the mood and the story, then you're like, okay, it makes sense to have this prop on the kitchen table, and it makes sense to have this book open on the coffee table, like, because what the goal is. So I love to start with a story and a mood. And then from there, I create a mood board that I share with the client, make sure we're on the same page of the kind of things. And then I'll just start sourcing from there items, either things I have on hand or other styling friends I can borrow things from, or I feel lucky to have made some connections with local shops, vintage shops or other artists. One of my favorite things actually is to find other artists making really cool stuff and feature their items at a shoot. I love collaborating with other creatives so much that I'm like, oh, I want to use that painting in my next shoot, or that ceramic piece. And so finding really unique things is great. And I love it even more if it's someone I know that's created it, or, someone local. I love when that comes together.
And it's a win-win as well, isn't it? Because,
Oh yeah,
if they're sort of loaning it to you, then you can share the image with them, which they can use on their socials or website or whatever. So
yeah, I
everyone
love it so
benefits.
much. I love collaborating in that way. It's like you're saying, it's a win-win for everybody. And I just love being able to build each other up and be like, that is so, that art is so cool. Like, it's going to make this whole photo. Like, thank you so much for letting me use it. And it's just, yeah, it's great to be able to work together that way. I love it.
And what about some of the sort of the practical tools that you use? You talked about you create mood boards. I mean, are you using Canva? What are you using on a kind of day-to-day basis for your work?
Yeah, I'm in Adobe InDesign a lot, is what I mainly use. I'm kind of a self-taught graphic designer, kind of. I wouldn't even say graphic designer, but I learned how to use all those Adobe programs kind of as a hobby. And so I'm in Photoshop and InDesign and Illustrator usually as I'm creating the boards for clients. And I recently started using Dubsado to help do contracts and keep track of clients and send invoices and stuff like that.
Okay. How do you spell that? I haven't.
Dubsado.
Okay.
It's
Dubsado.
meant to
Okay.
be like a project manager.
Right.
And I'm kind of just dipping my toes in, but I'm excited about the idea because you can also, have clients fill out questionnaires or surveys, and you can make questionnaires like for your website. So if there's an easy way to kind of flow in contact information, and when people reach out to you, and you can kind of create emails that are that you're going to use often, that you can just be sent out quickly. So I'm excited to kind of learn more about it. That's something I've started using just to help speed up my processes and not spend too much time in that kind of work. And what else am I using? I think that's about it. QuickBooks. I use QuickBooks for like accounting purposes.
The side that no one wants to have to deal with.
The stuff that I wish I didn't have to do. You learn so much as a business owner. Oh, wow. Like so many things you don't think about, like the accounting side or getting a business license, figuring out taxes. It's a whole thing. So I've learned a lot for sure.
Yeah. And I'm just curious as well. I mean, you mentioned that you've got 3 children and how what's the kind of the workflow or the balance that you're striving for in terms of work and, nurturing your creativity and being a mom and, family life and all of that. What's working for you? What do you find is a good balance for you?
Yeah, I feel like this is something I'm always trying to figure out in some ways, but I like to set aside work hours every day. If it's a shoot day, that's different. That's like a whole day that I'm gone. But I try to set aside my morning hours for work. So like 8 to 2, I'm like in work, and then I turn it off and I move on to, family life, or maybe I'm going to do something for myself. But I feel especially as a business owner now, it can be really easy to just work. There's always stuff to do. There's always more you could be doing. You could be updating your website. You could be creating more content for Instagram. It's never ending. And so I found it's pretty important to kind of set the work hours and then be like, all right, that's it for today, just so it doesn't sit and consume my life and my thoughts. Because I want to be really intentional about my time. And when I'm with my family, I want to be with my family. I don't want to be thinking about this project that I still haven't finished or, whatever it might be. So I'm trying to be better about that, and kind of blocking my day and my time has been helpful in accomplishing that goal of being more intentional about what I'm doing and how I'm spending my time.
Yeah, no, definitely. Boundaries, I think, are so important when it comes to all of that. Well, I've got a last little run of questions to ask you, and just to get a bit more of an insight into you and your journey and what you're passionate about and inspired about at the moment. So we'll kind of move into those.
Okay.
Which 5 words best describe you?
Yeah, but I don't know why this was hard. You let me know some of these questions before, and I was like, why is it hard to like talk about myself? It was kind of a weird like exercise, but so I think of myself as ambitious. I feel like I am pretty resourceful. Like scrappy is another word my husband likes to use for it. Like I'm just pretty good at using what I have and making things work. I am artistic. I love all types of art and just creating in that way. I think I'm thoughtful about the things I do and with life in general. Just want to think through things. And then I think I'm pretty fun. I like to have a good time. I like to laugh, and I just think life is, I don't know, I just want to have a good time. So like one of my goals this year is actually to have more fun. That was my intention for the year. So I just think it's important to incorporate that, especially as we get older. I think people kind of think that the playful, joyful stuff is normal for kids and we kind of have to grow up and be serious. But I always look for ways to just have more fun. Have a good time. So.
Yeah, that's great. It's definitely something that yeah, that I want to try and have more. I think it's so easy to get consumed with like all the work things and the kid things and family and,
Yeah,
trying to be exercise and eat well. And, and it's like, and actually I had
so
one
much.
of the things that I wanted to try and do this year was to be able to do a handstand again. That
Hey, I love that. Yes,
sounds, although I think I need to practice a bit more, but
that is so cool. I love that. I took up roller skating
oh,
this
great.
year. Has been something that's been really fun for me. So,
Awesome. What's the best life or career lesson you've learnt?
um, I think I think just being really deliberate and intentional has been a big something that's been important for me to understand and learn and take to heart. Because your life can just kind of become this thing that you didn't realize you didn't like you really made the choices to get there. I don't know if you've ever been there, but I got to a place where I was like, how did I get here? Like this isn't what I want, and I think if we're not thoughtful and thinking about the way we want to live our lives, that it can be easy just to get caught up in things maybe we don't want to be doing when we don't think about it. So just being intentional and thoughtful about the choices you make, the clients you take on, the way you spend your days, um, just make sure it's something you really want to be doing.
Yeah,
So
no, completely. Absolutely. What's your proudest career achievement so far?
I think I think I might have two. I think getting the job at Studio McGee was a big deal for me, and so that was a milestone. And then recently, getting a pretty awesome 3-day shoot with a good budget, all on my own. Having my own name on it just felt so good, and I was just proud of myself for being able to do some big things recently. So that's felt good too.
That's awesome. It's good to celebrate the kind of the wins along the way. So it's important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
What's been your best decision?
Um, Good question. I think I think my best decision has been to pay attention to what I love and um, and kind of being in touch with my intuition a little bit more and kind of listening to what my insides are telling me is good. Kind of going back to kind of getting in this kind of hamster wheel maybe of life and just taking the time to kind of get out of that and notice what really brings you joy. And so I think being more in tune with my intuition and what's best for me has been really good for me in the end.
Yeah, no, really important. And what about who inspires you? Who's inspiring you right now?
Um, I am so inspired by strong women. I just think there's so many amazing women doing so many cool things right now, and they all are inspiring. But specifically in like the interior design space, I am really loving Hadley Wiggins' work right now. Um, I just think she's putting out some really cool stuff that's unique. And another person, one of my first mentors, Meta Coleman, she was a stylist and I assisted her back in the day. It's been a while now. And now she focuses on interiors. And I just feel like she's just authentic to herself and isn't trying to copy any other, thing she's saying and is just making a path of her own that I really find inspiring.
Yeah, great. Um, what are you passionate about?
I am passionate about collaborating and building each other up in life, in careers and just in our day-to-day life. I just love connecting with people, and I think on a deeper level, I think we're all kind of here to help each other out and build each other up and be there for each other. And so I'm passionate about connecting with other artists, like I kind of mentioned earlier, and working together. I love being on set with, a photographer and a stylist and an interior designer. And sometimes I'm on a bigger set with, a DP and a director and hair and makeup and wardrobe. And it's just so cool to see everyone come together in their own expertise and come together to create something really beautiful. It just feels so good. I love that and kind of chase that feeling of collaborating with others and all of us bringing together our best work to create something really cool. It's just kind of magical. So I love that.
Yeah. What dream do you still want to fulfill?
I have had this idea of, I haven't quite figured it all out yet, but some kind of nonprofit to use kind of my skills and kind of the network of people I have to help women who have kind of escaped like abusive relationships and are kind of starting out in their new space on their own. I feel like there's a space there that maybe I could help with as they move into their own space and create their own home and wanting to support that. So I haven't quite like figured it all out yet, but that's something that's kind of been on the back of my mind. I'd love to find something that has a lot of meaning behind it, ways to really improve the world around me. So that's something that I've kind of been thinking about recently.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I always think that, it's I think our homes are so important, and it's obviously such a privilege to have a home. And yeah, I'm always very conscious of that, whenever I do something, I'm always looking for ways to kind of give back in some way, because I think it's, it's something we kind of really take for granted. And yeah, definitely really important.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So what are you reading right now? What's on your bedside table, or what's a book that you've recently got that you're really loving?
Yeah, I recently started reading The War on Art, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And it was recommended to me by lots of people. I think sometimes we can get stuck in creative careers in like this block of, I don't know, like not being good enough, or whatever the things are that can just make it hard to like have the creative process flow through you. And this book talks a lot about that, trying to find ways to break through those blocks that can come up as you're trying to create. So I've been enjoying it. I'm just like a couple chapters in, but
yeah, I was actually reading that while I was writing my book Style. So I've got a chapter or a section about the creative process, and how like you reach those blocks and struggling to get past them. And so much of it, I feel like creativity is so often in your head, you're sort of like doubting yourself or second guessing yourself or worrying about what other people are doing. And yeah, so it's a great book for that.
Yeah, that's great. That makes me excited to keep going too.
Yeah.
So that's great.
And what about, do you listen to podcasts, or what are you listening to?
Yeah, I love listening to podcasts, all kinds, really. One of my favorites, it's not really design related, but I've been really into Esther Perel. She's like a psychotherapist and talks a lot about relationships. And I just think she's so cool and so smart and has so much good advice for people. And I'm inspired by her knowledge. And I think she speaks like 8 languages, and she's just so cool. So she has a podcast that you actually can listen to her therapy sessions. They're just kind of these one-time therapy sessions with clients that you kind of get this inside listen to and a little bit of her commentary with it. I don't know. I'm just loving that a lot right now.
Yeah, I've heard her interviewed a couple of times, and she's just, she's a really inspiring woman in terms of, I just love that obviously she's very smart, but she really kind of says what she thinks in a way, and I think that sometimes it's in a very thoughtful and kind way, but I think sometimes we live in a world where I don't know, we're so frightened to say what we think sometimes. And I really admire that about her, that she,
Yeah.
she's kind of, really honest about
Yep.
stuff. So yeah, really great.
I totally agree. And she does it so well because she can say it and it's not, it's like in a disarming way, she's just so good with the way she says what she thinks, but she's not shy about it. She's telling it like it is. I love that too.
Yeah. And finally, what piece of advice would you give to your younger self?
I think I would tell my younger self to not worry so much about what other people are doing and like maybe the expectations other people have on you for your life, and just do what you want to do. Just, and yeah, just go for it and dream big. Because I think sometimes we can feel like there's a limit to what we can do based on the people that we have in our lives or what we've seen other people do. And I think I've grown over time. I've learned that we can do more than we think. And so just kind of reiterating that to my younger self would be great, just to go for it.
Yeah. I mean, it's maybe the same answer, but I'm also curious. I mean, I know that a lot of people who join my course or, are thinking of, they're people often who have, they've gone down a career path and it doesn't feel right for them. And they're kind of at this point where they're thinking, I really like what you were experiencing, like I want to do something for me. I want to actually do the thing that I enjoy. What would you say to somebody like that who's at that point of thinking, I'm not actually where I want to be and I want to do something, as someone who actually made that change in your life, what would you say to somebody who's at that point?
Yeah, something that kind of clicked for me back then as I was trying to figure things out is I saw people people were doing the job I wish I had, right? Like people are styling magazines and photos. And I remember thinking, like, if they can do it, like, why can't I do it? Like, if someone's going to get paid to do that, why not me? Like, I want to get in there, let's try this out. And like, what do they have that I don't have? And I think what it came down to was like experience in that when I kind of had that question. And I'm like, so let's start doing stuff. Let's start getting out there, and figuring this out so that you can do it too. And just kind of believe that you can do that. You can, if you want that job, you can do it. And there's nothing special about them that's different than you necessarily. It's just a matter of putting in the work and figuring things out and learning. And you can do it.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I always say that, there's only one way to learn, and that's by doing the work. So yeah, completely.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story. And it's been a delight to have you on the podcast. So if people would like to connect with you or see more about your work or work with you, then where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, they can go to my website, jenpaul.com, JEN1NPAUL, or my Instagram, it's _JenPaul as well. You can find me either of those spots. So,
Great. Be sure to check it out. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thanks so much. I really enjoyed my time. Thanks, Natalie.
All of the links and info for this episode are at nataliewalton.com/podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can get a direct download of the latest episode. And I really appreciate when you take a minute to rate and review, as well as share the love with someone you know who might benefit from this episode, or on social media. If you'd like to access a range of free resources, come visit my website, nataliewalton.com. Thank you to Jaeger Media for producing this podcast. And I would also like to acknowledge the people of the Bundjalung Nation where it was recorded, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging. I look forward to connecting again soon. I'm Natalie Walton, and you've been listening to Imprint.